Me too. I'm going to St. Louis.
Washington.
I'm with my daughter. She's upstairs in the room. But we were out here looking at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Got kids?
No.
Where do you take your oldest to look at colleges? It's an incredible feeling. You wish they'd go to college across the street from your house, but, you know.
Jack Daniels rocks. My boss went to Notre Dame.
Beautiful campus. I've never seen anything like it. She's not going to get to sleep tonight. You see what happened in the market today?
Yeah, I saw. You invested?
Mutual fund that's supposed to send her to college. I never imagined it. $55,000 a year. I'd have trouble making ends meet. And my wife brings in another 25. My son's in public school. It's no good. I mean, there's 37 kids in a class. No art and music, no advanced placement classes. Other kids, their mother has to make them practice the piano. You can't pull my son away from the piano. He needs teachers. And I spend half the day thinking about what happens if I slip and fall down on my own front porch, you know. It should be hard. I like that it's hard. Putting your daughter through college, that's a man's job. Man's accomplishment. But it should be a little easier. Just a little easier. Because in that difference is everything.
Have you ever had that eerie feeling, as if history is whispering to us, quietly reminding us we've been here before? It's June 8th, 2025, and today feels like a page torn from a past that many of us hoped we would never relive. Welcome back to the Boogie Down Scholar Podcast. Today I wanted to share my thoughts on an idea that, as unsettling as it seems, our nation is retracing steps we've walked before. Let's begin with something clear yet very sobering. We've navigated similar waters in our past, though the details have changed a little bit. Decades ago, the federal government played a role in safeguarding individual freedoms by actively defending civil rights. Today, as troubling as it is for me to tell you, it is being employed and deployed to curtail those very same civil rights. This is an observation, and it's not just rooted in hard evidence alone. It's a blend of analysis, my intuition, and an earnest reflection on current events. This past week offered significant reminders of what is possible through persistent advocacy. Mr. Kilmar Abreu Garcia has been returned to the U.S. He's in our custody after months of tireless campaigning. This victory, though modest, is a beacon of democracy, proof that our collective voices still hold power and will always hold power. Yet, we find ourselves in dangerous new territory. Protests are a part of the fabric of American history. What is alarming is this current moment we're witnessing, where an authoritarian approach is mobilizing law enforcement and the military against U.S. citizens. It's odd how the very people who incited the January 6th insurrection seem to have little appetite now for other citizens gathering to voice their concerns. But I digress. The current administration's recent decision to commandeer a state's National Guard to suppress demonstrations against ICE's increasingly aggressive apprehensions has set a very troubling precedent. And amid the storms, cracks in power structures grow wider. Just days ago, the MAGA movement experienced a seismic shift, Did you feel it? The alliance between 47 and the shadow president has collapsed dramatically. A breakup many anticipated, but few foresaw unfolding with such bitterness and pettiness. According to some news accounts, the former shadow president was physically assaulted just days before, his unceremonious excommunication from the administration and 47's inner circle. Yikes. Side note, scholars, come a little bit closer. Are we surprised? Muskie's forced removal highlights a pattern reminiscent of 47's first term. You remember? Loyalty unrewarded, alliances discarded, and relationships forever fractured. Am I lying? Think of Pence, Bolton, Mattis, Kelly, Tillerson. Each one fiercely loyal, each one now cast aside, some vilified, and others threatened with active, vengeful investigations driven by our own Justice Department. Now enter in the wild card, Muskie. His fallout with 47 could be particularly consequential. Bear with me. Muskie knows too much, from sensitive campaign details to current controversies, making him uniquely dangerous to 47. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Be very careful, homie. I hope you have good people around you, because when you decided to speak out against 47, you were speaking truth, but you're now also wading in the waters of, well, the initial silence from 47 in response to the now fired Secretary of Doge's recent Twitter X criticisms was deafening. He didn't have anything to say. He always has something to say. And I do want to repeat, the now fired Secretary of Doge. Let's not forget what role Muskie played. Let's make sure that title sticks, because he too needs to be held accountable when the time comes. It speaks volumes and perhaps underscores the vulnerability of billionaires within a volatile dictator regime. So the Bezoses and the Musks and the Zuckerbergs, y'all need to figure this out really quickly, and good luck with that. Your billions do not protect you. Shifting gears, back to us. But see, we the people, we must remain vigilant and come together. You may or may not know that there's a lawsuit alleging voting irregularities, and this lawsuit is hinting at possible electoral tampering for the most recent presidential election. Now, I can't speak to that. All I can say is a lawsuit has been filed. I don't want to spend too much time discussing this, but you can research it by yourself, and you should. It's a third rail issue, and it should play out in the courts, and we should all pay attention to it. So stay tuned, and you should know this lawsuit makes a lot of people in the current administration very nervous. And I'll tie that in as we go on in this episode. In fact, Muskie is on record stating that if 47 didn't win the presidency in this past election, he was likely going to jail. It's unclear if he was alluding to the lawsuit that is currently going through the courts, or his role in dismantling all of the mechanisms Doge was responsible for purging that were looking into some of his business practices. Was it electoral tampering? Or was it these federal agencies that were looking into Musk's business dealings that prompted him to say if 47 did not win, he would likely go to jail? That's for you to interpret, and we will find out. It's odd how he and 47 have these occasional, unprovoked, and transparent moments where they seem to be inadvertently revealing the truth and their true intentions. You can sit and think about that. But people in New York City knew 47 was a fraud 40 years ago.
Ag tennis shoe brand, Marie Antoinette and the Oval. He drives everything into the ground.
He drives everything into the ground. And I think a lot of the American people and the fascination with Donald Trump came from The Apprentice. And I think that a large shortcoming is that people just assumed because he was a boss on TV, he ran a good business, and nobody took agency and did it, even a light Google search to know what a fraud he was, because everybody in New York knew he was a fraud because that's where he was his whole life. He was universally known in Manhattan and ostracized. But I think TV made people think, oh, he's a great businessman.
And more people are learning about it. At the same time, unsettling rumors suggest 47's potential involvement and yet unreleased Epstein files. Combine these developments, and you sense an administration that could be on the brink. They're real nervous and perhaps willing to do the unimaginable, not just to maintain power and expand power, but to avoid the inevitable, accountability. I believe they're terrified. And given this reality, they pose a significant danger to the U.S. citizens and our country as a whole right now. Anybody, most people, I'll say most people, some people would do anything to save their own skins if all U.S. citizens collectively paused and realized who the true enemy within was. Yet middle America is waking up rapidly, especially in light of the incompetence and the utter disregard for human life demonstrated in their responses to things like natural disasters. People in middle America are suffering right now. And where's FEMA? It's almost as if their explicit aim is not only to see Americans suffer, but to perish. Indeed, recent actions point towards preparations for a likely military deployment to quell relatively minor protests, a scenario openly hinted at by the administration since the inauguration. Indeed, since 47's first term in office, he wanted to use the military. Remember when he asked a general if he could shoot people in the leg? Do you know that? Do you remember that? The general firmly refused. He did his duty. But the people around 47 now wouldn't hesitate to carry out or issue the same insane order. That's a major difference between the first term and this term. And we should all be concerned. So I want to give a personal shout out to all of those law enforcement and military people who do the right thing, even when they're not being watched. Shout out to General Milley for protecting the American people from a dictator's machinations, which is a fancy word of saying whatever goes through his head. I wonder whatever happened to Milley. That's rhetorical. We know how Trump handled and addressed Milley after he stood up to him. Check this out.
Overnight, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth removed the security detail protecting former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley. Milley had that security not only as a former chairman, but because he faces ongoing threats for his involvement in a 2020 U.S. drone strike that killed a top Iranian general. Hegseth also pulled Milley's security clearance and opened an investigation that could end with demoting Milley in retirement. Here's
And make no mistake, behind the spectacle of 47 and Muskie are shadowy figures who orchestrated the chaos of 2025 that we're living in right now. Their goal is becoming increasingly clear, at least to me. Use the current public faces for as long as possible to advance their insidious plans. Then replace them with someone more malleable. Now, who do we think that is? Who do we think that could be? If you're like me, you thought of the same person. The person that was hand-selected to be the running mate of 47 at the behest of key tech billionaires and many of the architects of 2025. And this person has been eerily silent with everything that's happening right now in the last week. And as federal forces stage to enter Los Angeles, and God bless those good people, and God bless those good law enforcement out there and the good military out there, sending protection vibes. And they're doing this against the governor's wishes. Tensions nationwide are starting to mount and crest. Across political lines, Americans are becoming increasingly unified in one central belief, and this is a good thing. America has no kings. I'm not exactly sure how this plays out in the days and weeks and months to come. I'm very fearful that a lot of people will be adversely impacted, indirectly or directly, and some people may be injured or worse. I just hope that this can be resolved very quickly, and we know how we need to resolve it. One final thought, specifically to the billionaires and Muskie, if he or his circle hears this. Recently, I heard that Vlad sent out an invitation for political asylum. Don't do that. Accepting it will be the end of your run. It will result in ruin. He is a master manipulator and 47's puppeteer. Oppose him, threaten his power, and you'll find out that you're not running towards sanctuary, but exploitation. He wants Trump to succeed because Trump has been so malleable. And Musk and anybody who gets in Trump's way, hopefully they do. If you go to his area or his home, you'll be in for it. So I would think long and hard about any weird idea of taking a dictator's invitation to come to their country for safety. You will not be a billionaire for long. Ask the other 13 billionaires and oligarchs that lived in those countries. So maybe this is that moment where Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, they find that courage that does lie within them to do the right thing, even if they're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. Well, that's all I have for now, scholars. Thank you for joining us. Leave a comment and a like, or consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, be well, stay informed, and peace and progress. Be safe out there. And whether you're being watched or not, do the right thing.
Miller writes, I want to apologize to America. I helped create a monster. Miller admitted NBC's fluffed up image of an ultra-successful businessman was, quote, highly exaggerated, and categorized it as fake news. He also offered up some behind-the-scenes details, like Trump's alleged pitch to have a black versus white season of The Apprentice. Miller says his first reaction, WTF. Joining me now, the man who wrote that op-ed, former NBC Chief Marketing Officer, John Miller. John, good to see you. The op-ed really thought-provoking. I mean, can you tell us about the Donald Trump you knew back in those Apprentice days and how you spun his image?
Well, the conceit of the show was that he would be a successful businessman and that people were trying to do that. The idea was you didn't win a date, you won a career. And the show, I didn't produce the show, but I did produce the promos for the show, or lead the team that did the promos for the show. The whole idea was that you would get a chance to be with a top business executive, and then you would win a prize, and then for a full year you would be with him. And the thing is that not many CEOs actually had the time or the desire to have somebody that was a reality show star come on and be in their inner circle. Donald Trump had no problem with that. He had the time. He liked the adoration. And so in order to make it successful, we had to make sure that the idea of you were going in for a big businessman. And in truth, he had bankrupt 4 of his businesses and was not all that successful. But in order to make the show a success, we had to make him as successful as we possibly could. And that was the conceit of the show. And you know, when he was just a businessman and it was just a TV show, that was one thing. We were doing it for television. Quite honestly, when you're promoting television, you exaggerate an awful lot of things. As I said in the article, we're making mountains out of molehills all the time. We did that. Sometimes they were good shows, sometimes they were bad shows. But when we marketed them, they were always the best show you had ever seen, until, of course, you had seen it. And in this particular case, as we're now only less than 20 days to the election, I simply felt it was very important, pursuant actually to your last guest, who talked an awful lot about the economy, where people were thinking that Donald Trump was an expert in the economy, when we effectively made him seem like a great businessman when he was really a small businessman that had a bunch of different LLCs. And if they went bankrupt, he could protect them by making them sort of weeding them out. Wow. And to a large degree, it was a creation for a TV show. And we were very good at it.